Alrighty. Well, since we're broadcasting, let's fire up X-Plane. Well, that was interesting, man. New flight. Cessna Skyhawk. Oh, that was me at Lockhart. We'll soon fix that. Redbird ramp and is that? Oh, there it is. Confirm. I can kind of see through myself slightly. Please ignore all the mess behind me. I'm going to be cleaning that up one of these days very soon. Most likely. Oh, let's say... Yeah, we'll just call it Cirrus. It's a little yucky today, so we won't be tracking real-world weather, which is hard to say 3 times fast. Yes, we want to start with engines running because for some reason I haven't been able to start the engines adequately. So we'll go ahead and get to the flight line. Alrighty, I suppose we're live. Oh, look at that. Okay, so I got little buttons. Oh, the buttons moved. Well, that's really strange. I'm jumping all over the place. Oh, there we are. Oh gosh, I wish I wasn't in front of the doggone GPS. Well, that's fine.
3 X-ray, Sierra, runway 26, taxi via Charlie, Foxtrot, 35, hold short of runway 26.
All right, let's see if we can get this.
Foxtrot, 35.
There's always an option with X-Plane for tuning the radios and using your GPS. So far as I can't get to the Facebook window. I didn't expect to be able, but I mean it's a nice handy thing to be able to do. Well, all right. So back to this. Over here. Okay. So Waypoint. There's AWAS 120.82, and we've already got it there. So now I'm going to click this COM2 listen right here.
San Marcos
And
Muting
there it is.
Information, Quebec. 2100 Zulu weather. Wind calm. Visibility more
These are
than
not
10.
the actual conditions.
Sky conditions 19,500
so-
scattered. 34,500 scattered. Temperature 13. Dew point -15.
There's 2992.
Altimeter 2992. Arriving runway 26.
And that's that. Okay, so click on that to get rid of it. And click on to get rid of me. Alright, here we go. Well, that's also strange because I'm
3 X-ray, Sierra, contact
Bigger.
tower on 126.8.
my screen and a little bitty
Contact tower on
YouTube. So
126.825.
it is what it is.
Sierra.
Set that compass up right quick. 174, just like it's been previous flights. And there it goes. Alrighty, well, I reckon that's probably good enough. We're just going to imagine that they gave us, well, I'll go through the motions anyway. I know where we are on the map, so we're just going to take off, head out to the west. So we'll give ourselves a right turnout. And
San Marcos
give
Muting
ourselves
Information,
take off.
Quebec.
What's the wind doing? Oh, it's
20.
calm, so we'll just take off. Just take off 3-5 and hang a left. It's probably the easiest way to do it. Alright, we're all agreed on that. So today's lesson, we're going to be going over a couple of just rudimentary things. The main things: why the airplane wants to turn left. Hint, hint. The propeller spins one way, we want to spin the other way. That's the long and short of it. There's also the asymmetrical thrust and the spiraling slipstream. Something about a gyroscope. We'll talk about that when it comes up. We'll do an exercise where we keep our nose straight, but we move our ailerons around. That's kind of fun. Constant airspeed climbs and descents. Climbing and descending turns. Descents with and without flaps. Power off descent at best applied airspeed. Descent at approach airspeed in landing configuration. I'll try to remember all of those. But as of now, pull out the checklist. Oh. Yeah, so the camera's in a different place. I hope nobody's confused by that. I mean, you'll just be watching me do what I'm doing. So the engine's already online. Take the mixture back slightly, just because it's a good idea to do that normally while you're on the ground, so you don't foul out your spark plugs. We already got ATIS, instruments are set, mixture is lean for taxi, and we can get our clearance. So we would say San Marcos ground, Skyhawk 172 Sierra Papa at Redbird, taxi for takeoff, VFR to the west with
San Marcos Muni Information Romeo 20.
And then they would say Skyhawk 172 Sierra Papa, taxi to 3-5 via Alpha Charlie Foxtrot, hold short of 3-1. Repeat all that back to them, and then we get going. I'm wondering if a left turn would make this process a little easier. Seems like I just turned like 270 degrees. So here we are taxiing. Now when we're taxiing, we want to make sure, if we're instructing, that we're not talking about anything other than taxiing. In fact, I don't put it past pilot examiners, the guys who give check rides, to try to purposely get you off topic in the middle of a taxi, just to see if they can do it. I don't outright tell them, hey, let's keep it business only, but I do kind of just, yeah man. And I try not to engage too much in conversation, because if I do that with a DPE, I might accidentally do that with a student. So if I'm teaching while we're on the ground taxiing, I'm not teaching anything other than, hey, here's how to taxi. Now here at this airport, we like to do our run-up before we get on the taxi. Put us right here. That was a little harsh, but we're at a complete stop now. So run-up is actually the before takeoff checklist. It's the first part of it. Here it is. Parking brake set. So look down, click that to get it out of the way, and set the parking brake. Set the parking brake. It's a simism. You can't actually set the parking brake if you've got the regular brakes depressed. The real airplane is kind of like that, I guess. Now I always cover the brakes, but I'm not going to be able to do that in this circumstance. So, passenger seat backs in the most upright position, simulated. Seats and seat backs, check secure, simulated. You got it secure. Cabin door is closed and locked. Actually check that. Okay, that's when it's locked. You're not going to be able to open it from the outside. And then same with this one. Okay, I hope I don't make anybody dizzy by looking around as I do. Flight controls free and correct, so I'm going to take my, oh, it's not all that free. I've got a throttle in the way. I'm going to move the stuff around, and as I do it, look out the window. So as I turn my wheel to the left, I should see the aileron go up, and turn it to the right, it's going to come down. And the way to remember this is thumbs up. If your thumb points at the aileron, it should go up as well. And if it goes away, then it's still correct. Off to the right, and observe the same thing. Oh, and we're just looking all over the place. I need to redo some of the presets of this control. Make it a little easier on myself. Take a look at the rudder, make sure it's doing the right thing. Yep, it is. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see the elevator here. I could cheat. Elevator. Yep, it works. And we're back. Flight instruments, previously checked, but we can also look. So that's 016 or so. And that's what I've got here, 016. Altimeter's already set. And there's yet another thing you can set, which is down here. A lot of people don't bother with it, but if you're on a cross country, if you know what your temperature is going to be at certain altitudes, you can actually put it in to this little window right here, and that'll move. Basically, you move the altitude underneath the applicable temperature, and then that moves this card down here, so that you know if you're between 90 and 130 knots indicated, it'll tell you what your true airspeed is. True airspeed is corrected for non-standard pressure and temperature. Fuel quantity is down here, looks fine. So mixture, we're going to go rich. Fuel selector valve, recheck that it's on both. Yep, it's been on both for a while now. Throttle to 1800, and we're going to check our magnetos, vacuum gauge, and engine instruments and ammeter. And we're going to have a look at the annunciator panel, make sure nothing's eliminated. And then we're going to go idle, and then back to 1,000 RPM. What are we at right now? Just above 1,000. So normally we want to hang out at 1,000 if we're just seated. That makes sure that your oil is circulating properly. I'm going to go to that VFR. Nope, that's the off one. Altitude, I'm going to go VFR. Oh, 1, 2. Alrighty, throttle to 1800. Helps if you can actually look down at your controls. Hopefully we don't go anywhere. Alright, so we're stable at 1800. And the very first thing we do is the Magneto check. So I'm going to go to the right magneto first. That's 2 clicks to the left. And we got a drop of about 100. 2 clicks to the right. It goes back up again. Now 1 click to the left. Check the left Magneto. And click back to the right. So it shouldn't exceed 150 RPM drop, and there shouldn't be greater than a 50 RPM difference between the two, but it's good. Vacuum gauge, it's this little tiny gauge. No, it's usually like a little thing right there someplace, but on this one, it's right here. As long as it's in the green, and that means that these two instruments are working right here. They use vacuum pressure to move the gyroscope really quick. So the gyroscope stays rigid in space as the airplane moves around. And it looks like we're changing our head and all that stuff, which is what we're doing. Engine instruments and M-meter. So the engine instruments, got exhaust gas temperature, fuel flow, amp, I believe it's showing a charge. It's not showing much of a charge. Oil temperature and pressure up here. And then I'll look at this annunciator panel, make sure that everything's illuminated and burnt out. So we're good. Throttle check idle, so go all the way back. And just make sure that it still turns, which it does. And then we're going to go back to 1,000 RPM. Throttle friction lock, I don't have one, but if I did, it'd be right here. It's this ring, and you just twist it. You don't want it to be completely loose. You don't want it to be so tight that it's a lot of work to push it in or out. If it's too loose, then all the vibrating of the airplane will cause it to not hold the RPM that you want. Strobe lights, okay. So those are on. I'm going to turn nav light, taxi light, landing light off because it's broad daylight. Radios and avionics are good enough. We're just going to simulate all that. Nav GPS switch is on nav. I'm going to switch it to GPS because that's how we'll navigate if we do. Autopilot is off. That's this right here. Manual electric trim. It's the only kind of trim I actually have on this simulator. So as I move the trim down, trims down and goes up, the trims up, just like that. So I want to set that for takeoff. Now not every Cessna is going to have that, but this one has it right here. There's the up and down trim knobs. There's also the override button. We're not going to use those. There. Elevator trim for takeoff. Wing flaps, we're going to set 0 flap for takeoff. And that's it. Brake for release. And we're going to continue with our taxi. Pedals are a little tricky because I'm just using them on a carpet and they don't have a very good grip to the carpet. It came with 2 Velcro strips, and when I had simulated hardwood floor at the other apartment, I had it affixed to those, but doggone it, I haven't had the opportunity to come up with a solution for that. So here is the hold short line for runway 31. You can see it right there. It's 31 and 35 hold short line. So if I want to go 31, it's this one all the way to the left. And if I want to go 35, it's just the one 90 degrees left. So I'm on Foxtrot Taxiway. That's the taxiway sign, the identifier to tell me, hey, you're on Foxtrot Taxiway. There's our windsock, but it's light variable, they said. Everything looks good, so I'm going to review the takeoff checklist. Wing flaps 0 to 10, don't need them. Throttle will be full open, mixture rich. elevator control. Lift the nose wheel at 55 knots. Climb speed 70 to 80. We'll shoot for 74, which is max rate of climb. And then retract the flaps, but we won't have to do that. So really, the only two things are what speed to lift the nose, and don't forget to enrich your mixture. So there we go. We'll switch to tower frequency, which I think is this one, 26.82. And we call up and say San Marcos Tower, Skyhawk 172, Sierra Papa, 3-1 at Foxtrot, ready for departure to the west. They'll say Skyhawk 172, Sierra Papa, cross 3-1, runway 35, clear for takeoff, left turn out approved. We'll repeat all that, and get going. Make sure our mixture is rich, lights are on. Right here is a dangerous area to be in because there's what we call a hot spot. A hot spot is any area that might be trouble. That's the simplest way to put it. There's a hot spot where those two runways converge because it's possible to bite off on the wrong one. Now you're taking off on a runway you might not be cleared for. And if somebody's doing some kind of instrument move in the opposite direction, well, that's not very good for your health. So you just fly right into it. I'm going to raise my nose. I'm going to continue looking out the window. I like to scoot this up just a little bit so I can see the nose. This is a little closer to what I see when I'm sitting in the Cessna. We're over 500 feet above the ground now. I don't see any useful runway left. We're going to start our turn to the left. Take a look off to the left first. Make sure there's no airplanes in that direction or any other obstacles. We're going to start our turn to the left. We want a very steep turn because we're at a comparatively low airspeed. And I'm just going to parallel that road down. Roll out, and that road happens to align with west, which is a nice thing. Now, to tell whether we're climbing well or not, I'm going to take my hands off of the controls and see where they go. Well, we're still climbing. Our airspeed is high, if anything. I could always raise the nose a little bit, hold it there, and then trim it to relieve the back pressure. Put it back down to 74, which should be the airspeed that we fly in order to have the highest rate of climb, which is on this instrument down here. That's your vertical speed indicator, or if you're in the military, we call it VVI for vertical velocity. It's velocity because it tells you speed and it tells you up or down. And I'm going to go to 3,000. So there's 100 to go. We're going to start the level off maneuver a little early. We learned that in our last lesson. Hold it just below the horizon, start, pull the power back, call it 2400, speeding up, start trimming, just a little bit, trim it down a little bit, and then just ease off and see what she wants to do. She wants to climb, so I'm going to trim a little bit down. Hold it up around the horizon. And looks like she still wants to climb a little bit. So just making little adjustments as we go. I wanted to fly at exactly 3,000 feet. It's duck on autopilot. Got a 2-axis autopilot. You can see out there Canyon Lake. So look around. There's some neighborhoods out there. Oop. X-Plane isn't quite as accurate with the scenery as Microsoft Flight Simulator is. If you want my opinion, X-Plane flies more like a real airplane than Microsoft does. Some people still prefer Microsoft. And I don't blame it. It's a good system. Alright, there's 3,000. Climb rate is 0. Screaming across the sky. It's a beautiful day to fly. Alright, we'll talk about our first couple of things. So, left turning tendencies. If I was to raise the nose and just keep my feet off of the rudder, I want you to take a look down here. Oh, you can't see my mouse? Doggone. Okay. Well, alright then. If everybody can recognize the artificial horizon, that's the attitude indicator. It's the one right in the middle. To the left and right of it are the airspeed indicator and altimeter. Fairly simple. Then across the bottom there's 3 other instruments. The turn coordinator, it says turn coordinator. The attitude indicator, it's like a compass. And then vertical speed, which is the VPI. The one to the bottom left, I want you to watch that as I roll out on heading 270. I'm going to keep my feet off of the pedals and raise the nose. Huh. Strange, nothing happened. Go back down to 3,000. See if we can make that a little more dramatic. Seems to me, in a real airplane, left turning tendencies are a bit more pronounced. I'll try that again. Finger off controls. I want you to watch what that little weight is. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Oh, nothing at all. Killing me, Smalls. Well, normally it would shift off to the right, meaning that we're slipping to the left. So in order to fix that, we're going to add some rudder to the right. Now, the reason that normally as you're flying, you're subconsciously adding a little bit of control to the right to keep the airplane from rolling off to the right is we call it the torque effect, but it's actually just Newton's action-reaction principle. We've got a propeller and an engine that are turning in one direction. The rest of the airplane wants to react and turn in the opposite direction. But does anybody ever even notice this? I mean, it's fixable by just keeping one hand on control. I've never come across an airplane that just persistently wanted to turn left, and I think the biggest reason for that is the difference in mass. That propeller is really tiny, and the rest of this airplane weighs upwards of 2,000 pounds. But I think there's also a couple of aerodynamic things built into airplanes to keep that from being more pronounced. I'm sure everybody who flies airplanes is now going to tell me this. But that's one of the 3 big ones. The second one is the one I'm really trying to demonstrate. And it's just not happening for strange reason. Well, we'll just do the stability demo while we do this. But the big thing to note is that normally in real airplanes, when you raise your nose, there's going to be a left yaw tendency. The reason for that is you've got two blades, sometimes more than that, on your propeller, and the ones on the right side, because of the way the relative wind hits them, they're going to be at a slightly steeper angle than the ones on the left side. In other words, the descending blade is going to produce more thrust than the ascending blade. It pains me to use the term ascending because you don't say ascend if you're talking to air traffic control. You say climb. There's a difference. Well, there's no difference, but ascend sounds like descend, so it's easy to get confused if you're controlling. And I've dealt with plenty of confused controllers, but because of this, because of the higher blade angle on the right side versus the left side, then it produces more thrust on the right side, which is going to yaw the plane. Also, to a certain degree, and this happens even when you're straight and level, just minding your own business, and there is no asymmetrical thrust, there's a spiral of air that starts at your propeller and it spins all the way around the body of your airplane, called the fuselage, and it ends up whacking the left side of your tail. Well, when that happens, it deflects your tail to the right, which naturally deflects your nose to the left. And the pivot point around which they do that is your center of gravity. But unfortunately, I can't demonstrate all that to my viewing audience, so we're going to have to call that one skipped, even though we've spent probably 10 minutes on it. So, rudder aileron coordination exercise. I'm going to make a turn to the left, which means I'm going to raise my nose very slightly. I'm going to get back on 3,000 feet. I'm giving it a little too much rudder. The ball is off to the right. I always want to put whatever rudder in to correspond with the deflection of the ball. So if the ball deflects to the left, you want to step on it. You want to hit the left rudder, and vice versa with the right. Now, to practice actually coordinating with these rudders, we're going to pick something on the horizon. I'm going to say, from the right, there are two little peninsulas of land going into simulated canyon level. I'm going to aim for the furthest one out, which is about to go under my nose. Forget that. We're just going to aim for where the dam would be, which is the furthest to the left here, the eastmost point of canyon level. So here it is. So the idea is I want to bank about 30 degrees. I want to keep my nose in the same place. So, banking left 30, and then waypoint 30. Like that. It's tricky because what I'm doing as I'm banking, and I'm also pointing my nose down. But as I'm banking, what I'm doing is moving my nose off to the left slightly with the rudders. So we're going to aim for that point out there. We'll look at my nose. So there's my nose. Okay. So as I bank to the right, I give myself a little left rudder, and then banking to the left. I'm going to give myself a lot of left, and then a lot of right, a lot of left, a lot of right. And it's got to happen like as you move. That is commonly referred to as the Dutch roll. But anybody who's studied aerodynamics is going to tell you that's not what a Dutch roll is. It pushes glasses up that are connected by a little banding. It's like, okay, yes, we know that. For some reason, they still call that maneuver the Dutch roll. Alright, back to 3,000 feet, and we're going to just hold the nose here until we get back to where we want to go. We're going to talk about making constant airspeed climbs. We'll do one constant airspeed climb and one climbing turn. A little higher than 3,000. We should be trimmed for 3,000 in this power setting though, so I shouldn't need to adjust the trim. Alright, so we're cruising along. I think we're at 2,400 RPM. Ooh, we're a little past 25, so we'll come back to, we'll call it 25, why not? And there we are. So we're really screaming. We're up toward the upper end of the green arc on the airspeed indicator. So what a lot of people will do when they want to start a climb is they'll go full power and then raise the nose. Well, I mean, sure, you can do that, but it doesn't really affect your efficiency anymore. In fact, you start to get going a little faster than you want. Something that will help you in the future, something that's good practice, especially when you get into the instrument phase, is a little bit of energy management. You want to raise your nose to an angle, a pitch angle, that you're normally going to want to hold for what we call VY, which is your best rate of climb airspeed. I think a certain assistant thought I was talking to her. Yeah, there she is. So the idea is raise your nose first and hold it until you get to the airspeed you want to climb at. And then by the time you add power, you're already almost to your altitude. So let's climb 1,000 feet, and I'll show you how that works. So I'm going to raise my nose until my dashboard is just slightly above the horizon. I'm going to hold it right here. You see, as I do that, my airspeed goes down. The reason for this is I'm raising my nose, which is taking my lift vector and it's moving it backwards. And as it does that, it's pulling the airplane back. We call that induced drag. Alright, I've added full power. We're at a good angle, so now I'm just going to trim us for this angle. I hate powered trim. I've flown all kinds of airplanes with powered trim. I tell you every time, if I have the option to use a wheel, I'll use the wheel. It's just instant. Alright, and 50 feet before level off, we're going to start lowering the nose. We'll leave the power in. Get to our altitude, there's 4,000. And there we go. I'm going to pull back. Probably to about 2,300. Or 2,100, sure. 21. Hold the nose. Motor accelerate. Keep us at 4,000. There she is. Pretty much 4,000, give or take. I'm going to add a little power, so we don't get too slow. So that's a climb. That's a constant airspeed climb. If you want a really fast climb, go for 74. If you want a better angle of climb, I think it's 72. You got to look it up in the normal procedures. Have that? Have that. So, and usually the best angle of climb for the shortest amount of ground distance, that's going to usually be a slower speed than the best rate of climb. And but your en route climb speed is going to be a little bit greater than your best rate of climb speed. Why you use an en route climb speed is so your engine doesn't overheat, and you can also see out the window better as you're making the climb. Which, by the way, I never did. It's good to go through a cruise checklist. So we've set our power, our elevator trim is adjusted, we never leaned our mixture. So I'm going to lean the mixture down. Okay, so our fuel flow is now about 5 gallons an hour. Not realistic for a fuel-injected Cessna, but I mean, it's fine. It's also another thing you can do now. Right next to fuel flow is EGT. That's exhaust gas temperature. So if I want the best fuel efficiency, what I can do is pull that back until we see a peak, where if I pull it back any further, it starts to go down instead of up. So I'm still pulling it back. I've never done this with an actual analog EGT. We use lean assist in the digital system. So let's start. Oh, now it's down, okay. So there's where the peak was. It should go back to its peak and start going down. So I want to set it, I believe, about 50 degrees lean of peak. That's going to be your best power. And look at that, we've climbed 200 feet. So obviously we have plenty of power to work. Go back down to 4,000 so we can demonstrate this next thing. We're about halfway done with the lesson. Here's a cool thing though, is if we're way out here south of Canyon Lake, we end up running out of time, I just stop the simulator. I don't have to land the airplane. I like to land airplanes. It's kind of one of my favorite things to do because I'm so doggone good at it. But run out of time. If nobody actually views this video, I'm sure people are viewing this video. It's just there. Here we go. This was short notice. I actually got the schedule to fly on Wednesday at the time that I normally do this on Wednesdays, as if this was a normal thing for me. I will be working on my multi-engine instructor certificate. Hopefully that helps. So, making the climb, you want to go a little rich on the mixture. You want to raise your nose until you get to the airspeed you want, and then you want to add the power for the rest of the climb. Let's go up to 5,500 feet. The person you have called is not available. Please try your call again later. Message 3753. Gets them every time. Alright. Ooh, what's that? Oh, is that New Braunfels? I bet it is. Nope, that's Randolph Air Force Base. We're not supposed to go in there. We're in a simulator. I could totally go in there if I wanted to, but what the heck. Just go out to the east. Alrighty. Alright, so yeah. So we're going to go full rich mixture, raise the nose to a good height for for a climb at constant airspeed, and we're gonna accompany this with a turn to the north. So we're gonna clear to the left, and let's see. We've got this highway here, so we're gonna be 90 degrees to the highway. That's gonna be my sort of visual guidepost to get me in the direction. Sounds like it's raining over there. All right, enough talk. Let's climb. All right, so mixture back to rich. Raise the nose. Add a little bit of bank. We'll call it 10 degrees. Should be right, and full power. I'll just hold this. Hold this. There's the road. I see it. Take some of that out. Not needing a lot of left rudder because of the right turning tendency. Because the simulator forgot to do it. And we're almost to north. We're going to roll out. We're going to continue to climb. So climbing turns, you don't have to be terribly precise at your airspeed. 80 knots is fine. The main thing is don't overshoot either thing. So we know climbing 1,000 feet is going to take us about 2 minutes because climbing usually hovers around 500 feet per minute, unless you're in the 150, and then it could be 200 feet. So coming up on 5,000. There's 50 to go. Start rolling the nose. What they tell you in the book is 10% of your climb rate in feet to go. That's when you should start pitching down. Pitch down a little bit further. Start introducing some trim. There we go. Too much trim. So the wheel, it's hard to get too much trim. Yeah, good enough. So that's constant airspeed climbs, climbing turn. Let's do a descending turn. So for the descending turn, I'm just going to lower my nose until I catch about 500 feet per minute descent rate. And simultaneously, we're going to make a right turn. Off to the east. For this kind of turn, you can go for medium bank, which is around 15 to 20 degrees. But what we want to do is stay out of that little yellow arc on the airspeed indicator, the one that starts at 130 knots. Because on a hot day, you can end up with air pockets, where you've got a thermal release of air that pushes your airplane up. And if you're in that yellow range, we call that the caution range. If you encounter a sudden bump like that, you can end up, warping your airplane's skin if it's a big enough bump. If you're in the green range, you don't really typically have to worry about that much. But if you're in the caution range, it's a greater likelihood. You want to stay out of turbulent weather if you're flying in that range. 130 at the top of the green arc is called the maximum structural cruising speed, VMO, because NO stands for maximum structural cruising speed. A lot of things in aviation just make so much sense. Alright, so now we're going to practice the descents. So if we were to lose power, there's an airspeed that we usually shoot for, and that is called VG, best glide airspeed. It's also called lift over drag max. So the best lift produced by your wings versus the amount of drag, whether it's induced or parasitic, that your airplane ends up producing. That speed for these Cessna 172s at max gross weight is 68 knots. So that's what we're going to try to trim for. So we're going to say, uh-oh, we lost our engine. So we're going to idle the throttle. In fact, if it actually happens, I'm going to pitch up and climb as much as I can until we get to 68, and then I'm going to lower the nose very nicely. Try to capture it. Capture 68. That's not 68, that's 80. Keep it coming up. I'm going to start the trimming process. There it is. Just 2 little clicks below 70. Oh man. This is so much easier. You got a real airplane. But that's okay. I'm just gonna keep it where it is. There it is. Okay, so we're getting there. Alright, so really it looks like the pitch that we're gonna see at best glide airspeed is going to be just a little below the horizon on this airplane. And notice we've got quite a kicking descent rate, but at a lower or higher airspeed, we would be seeing on average a greater descent rate than we see at 68. And that's the whole idea of having an airspeed like that, where we can just say, okay, things are going wrong. We need to descend as slowly as possible. That's the airspeed that we use. If we make a turn, let's see what happens. Nice shallow airspeed, or a nice shallow bank. Our vertical speed downward increases. And the greater the bank, the greater the descent rate, while we're maintaining our speed. So we want to be careful of that. You don't want to use really steep banks if you're flying around trying to glide. So now that we're here, I think that one is New Braunfels. Yes, it is. Okay. Well, who cares about their airspace? I do. We're going to turn to the north, start heading toward San Marcos. There we go, 330, sounds good. So we're going to try a regular descent now. Let's call it 2100. I think 2100 is a good descent rate. Or a decent power setting. We're going to hold 500 feet per minute, though. Tell you what, pull it until we get to 80, because that's in our white arc. We can use our flaps at that speed. So there's a good speed, there's a good descent rate. So let's see what happens when we add flaps. I'm not even going to touch the controls. Whoa, the nose pitches way up and we start losing speed, we start climbing like crazy, all this. Case in point, you need to hold on to your cell phone so it doesn't fall off your desk. If you're using flaps, you got to know that your nose is going to pitch upward when you engage them. So I'm going to push the button for 20 degrees of flaps now. Keep that nose down, and much better. One more. There it is. So now you see we add flaps. It allows us to descend at a steeper angle without increasing our speed. Now, real quick demonstration. There's 65 knots, yeah, give or take. And we're coming in at about 15 to 1600 RPM. This is what you're really looking for, usually, for a landing approach. So what I'm going to pay attention to is how low below the horizon is my dashboard or my nose. There's my nose. You know, really, what does 65 knots really feel like? I'm below 500 feet above the ground, and these people in these houses are probably panicking. So we'll round out, raise the first notch of flaps, and there's 74. Second notch, positive rate of climb, flaps up, and reach. So to future students of mine, there's something I want everybody to be able to demonstrate, even though, yes, it's a visual medium, it's visual pilots, everything visual. But part of what the examiners are going to want you to be able to demonstrate is as follows. Grab your GPS. It's not detachable like a car stereo from the 90s, but for these purposes it gets it out of the way of my little video tube. So right now we're on the nav screen. For all of these, this is the X-Plane 530. What it's approximating is the Garmin GNS 530. So they're very, very similar. So what I'm going to do is take this outer knob. This is the inner knob. This is the outer. You can't even see it. Oh no, you can. There's my mouse cursor. Okay, great. So I'm going to turn it to the right. All the way. Now, all the way to the left is nav, all the way to the right is nearest. We've also got Waypoint and, I guess that's it. There's more pages on the real thing, but here's where we start. So you get to the nearest page. So, nearest airports. KBAZ, 9TA1, 50TA, E70, XS05. I think all of these 4-letter ones or 4-digit ones that don't start with K, I'm pretty sure these are all private. You can use them if it's an emergency, but you got to answer to somebody later on if it's not an emergency. But I want to take the inner cursor and scroll down. Oh, nope. That's nearest intersection. So I want nearest airport. If you use the inner knob, there's also nearest intersection, nearest non-directional beacon, VOR, which is nav aid, airspace. Not as familiar with that. So what we want to do, before we do that, click this, push the button. And it says push cursor. That's the cursor. If I push it again, the cursor goes away. So I'm going to push it to get the cursor. Now I'm going to scroll down using the big one. So BAZ, I could land there, but I want to go back to San Marcos, KHYI. I'm pretty far away up there. There it is, KHYI. Now, what a lot of people do is, okay, there's HYI, I'm going to push the cursor again. No, because pushing the cursor again, your cursor goes away, like a schmuck. Keep the cursor up. Don't hit enter because it's more steps. Hit the direct button. It's the one D with the arrow through the middle. Okay? Hit the direct button, and here it is. Select direct waypoint. You've already selected it. HYI, etc., etc. From the nearest, and you just want to hit enter to activate. And there it is. So, flying as if it's a video game. I'm just going to turn until that purple line is facing up and down. And I'm going to roll out. Now, as long as I keep that purple line straight up and down, then we're on our way there. Pretty easy to do. You can also look at it north up mode. This isn't, I don't think this is how normal 530s work, but, oh, that's right, we use 430s. Oh, that's the 430, okay. So I guess the 530 is the bigger version, and 430 is the small one. It's fine. And then that one, okay, so that's vertical navigation. Well, let's say we want to be, let's set up a vertical profile. So, let's say we want to be 1,000 feet above the airfield. Oh, I can't do that? Okay, well, never mind. Go for 1,600 feet, which is what we call pattern altitude. So when I get into the traffic pattern at San Marcos, that's the altitude I'm going to want to be at. Then my position, we're going to call it 1 mile before KHYI. Perfect. And we'll go for 500 feet. Yeah. 500 feet per minute descent. And it says descend to target now. Well, alright. And while we're doing that, enter. First. Perfect. So now we're going to go back to nav. Of course, just get that back where it needs to be. I'm about to go too fast. So if I had done that further out or at a lower altitude, then I would have received a little flashy thing on the at the bottom of my 530 saying, 10 seconds to descend to 500 feet. But since I didn't get that, let's see, what does it say? 600 feet. But that's going down, so as long as I keep this 1,000 plus, we'll be fine. Okay, there it is. So it looks like we've done pretty much everything. Power off descent at best flight airspeed, descent at approach airspeed, right configuration, descents with flaps, kind of the same terms. All that fun stuff. Another cool thing you can do is just hit direct again. Enter. There it goes. Okay, so I have the airfield in sight. It's this area out here. Whoa. Vehicle Service Department. Huh. Alrighty. We're getting there. In fact, getting there a little fast, so I'm going to raise the nose just a little bit. These vertical speed indicators, very, very touchy. Alright, so, yeah, acting like there's no tower, so, I mean, what are we aligned with? Let's do a right base for 1-3, let's just do that. We'll put 1-3 here, and I tell you what, there's an RNAV for 1-3, so we'll do a procedure. There's why not? RNAV 1-3 GPS, enter, default vectors, activate, enter, and over here I'll just, oh come on. Flight. Well, we sure continued that descent, didn't we? Alright, so we're still... Alright, like I said, raise the nose first. There we are. There's the airport. So this right here is showing us our approach path, which we're way too close to actually use, but hey, it goes to show you how easy it is to use these GPS approaches. So what this is showing me is I am to the right of where I need to be. That white right there is where I need to be, and then this other white is where I need to be. This white is where I need to be. Oh, you can't see that. Good. So this horizontal one is where I need to be altitude-wise, and then this vertical one is where I need to be latitude. So I'm going to go ahead and start the turn. Oh, and it's going to be great, great. And I'm going to start my descent, too. Pull down to about, what is that? About 1,700. At the first notch of flaps. Second notch of flaps. Oh, we are not stabilized. But hey, at least this isn't prepared. You're not allowed to have fun with prepared or prepar 3D. That one's for other than entertainment purposes only. You will sign a very stringent agreement that you will not enjoy using. You will not be entertained by Prepare. Alright, last notch of flaps, and we'll be coming in at 65. Here it is. So, this has been an unstable approach. But, I mean, hey, I'll at least show you that it can be done. It's all about energy management. So, because we're low to the ground and we're slow, we don't want to fix descent rate problems with our pitch, because that lowers our airspeed. We want to fix those problems with our power. Little squeaky squeak. Alright. Raise the flaps. Apply the brakes and take the next available taxiway. Oh, okay, so that one's closed. And I'm off the surface. I can tell it's been a while since I've flown regularly. Anyway, 6:03, right on the money. Thank you for joining us, and if you did, if you didn't, well, this will be available to watch on YouTube, I guess. Check out my channel. Bye-bye.